Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Performance Talk. My name is Yul Gordon. My partner is Chris Costa. We are here today with a very uh, a very unique guest with an eclectic background. So I'm looking forward to talking to Kelly Brightwell. Right?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Chris, what do you got going on today, man?
Oh, just the typical.
Typical driving down the highway, going to class, teaching. You teaching today?
Today I don't teach, but I have grading and documents and creation
You
to
got to
do.
do that stuff. Kelly just started her career in the academic world recently. See,
That's
I do. See, I do read. So tell us a little bit about how you got not only to that, but into strength and conditioning, into the performance world,
of course.
and introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, so hey everybody, my name is Kelly Brightwell, formerly known as Kelly Selman. I have my 2-year wedding anniversary coming up on Monday, so I'm still kind of considered a newlywed there. And I'm 30 years old, so got married late in life and had a big career prior to that. So how this all got started was I was an early youth dropout. I tried out different sports. I had some bad ADHD issues that I was diagnosed at when I was in third grade, and the while playing basketball, the basketball would be on the other end of the court, and I would just be, farting around at the other end of the court, not knowing what was going on. Just bad attention issues, and I was from a very small town of about 35,000 people, and so there was no such thing as strength and conditioning or sports performance coaches or speed coaches or even athletic trainers. I didn't even know what an athletic trainer that dealt with injuries was until I got into college. It just wasn't a thing. It was sports or that was it. If somebody dropped down with an injury on the court, well, it would be the paramedics or a doctor that was in the stands that would run down and help them out. So anyways, I dropped out of sport early because I felt unsuccessful about my skills and abilities. I kind of got into the art route, choir, art, creating things. And then when I got to be an adolescent, kind of in that junior high stage, you start getting a little bit more self-conscious about yourself. You don't want to be the fat girl in school. You want to be cool. You want to fit in. So that kind of motivated me to start pursuing fitness. That's when iPods first came out. And so I would pop my iPod in and I'd go on jogs in my neighborhood, which had nice sidewalks and street lights, so safe to do. And then I'd do some push-ups and crunches in my room at the very end. So I just kind of went on my own little fitness journey. And then by the time I was in high school, still was not participating in any sport at that time, but I was physically active as a youth, biking, doing my running, maybe going to the gym with my mom and hitting the machines. Had no clue what I was doing, of course. And so when I was a freshman in high school, I had to take a PE class, and the girls basketball coach was the coach of the class, and she identified talent in me. Finally, some coach to identify skills and abilities that I didn't believe that I had. I was outrunning everyone in the class, outdoing all the boys in the strength measurements, and I was just a hard worker. I had a great work ethic that I gained from my parents. She said, "Kelly, you need to go try out for the track and cross country team." So I went, and sure enough, my sophomore year of high school, I made varsity track, and then I pursued cross country as well as track during that time because I didn't have to have any sports skills. So from there, I wanted to continue to become a better version of myself and help others to become that way. So I got a degree at Texas A&M in exercise physiology. I decided that working with the general population, with diseased populations, which was more of the curriculum, was not my thing. They weren't motivated. They didn't have a high work ethic. And I could not find much sympathy for people that didn't believe in themselves or didn't care about their health. So that's when I
Say it isn't so, Kelly.
yeah. So that's where I pursued an internship the last 9 hours of my bachelor's degree. I took a sports performance internship down in Houston, specifically the Cypress area at Genesis Athletic Performance. Half of it was an athletic performance facility with turf, tires, kegs, sleds, you name it, any kind of old school West Side barbell methods they were doing.
Right.
Anything from Joe DeFranco, they were mimicking those kind of models. So it was brutal, hardcore strength. We trained anyone from your 9-year-old up to, we had some pro guys, some college guys in there. Then the other half of the gym was a CrossFit and Olympic weightlifting box. So I got exposure to both of those things and really improved my strength. That lit the fire for me, and then I pursued a master's degree in sports physiology at Texas A&M, where I was a graduate assistant for Aggie Athletics, and I was also a personal trainer and a strength coach at Texas A&M Rec Sports. So after I finished that, I went on to Michael Johnson Performance, where I got my big girl job, and I was there for 4 years as a performance specialist for an array of different athletes, whether it be group, team, private, and I also was the internship coordinator, and then was promoted to education coordinator, where I went out to China for about 3 years, 2 to 3 years, and taught certification courses over youth training methods and speed methods from the Michael Johnson system. So that's how it all got kicked off. And from there, I moved to Colorado Springs to help develop a performance facility called the Hibble Center.
Yep.
Unfortunately, the company didn't do so well, so they had to cut the sports performance program. It seems to be that there might be another entity coming in and perhaps taking over that space, maybe here in the future. But anyways, now I'm an instructor at CSU Pueblo, and I also do my own private training sessions at an Olympic weightlifting gym. I'm a competitive Olympic weightlifter, and I also am the head strength and conditioning coach for Liberty High School, training various teams after school. And I'm also a Vertimax master trainer, going around the country and teaching certification courses on how to maintain and use and program utilizing the piece of equipment, the Vertimax and the Raptor series. So that's my life right there. Oh, one
Well,
more thing. One more thing. I've been a presenter for the NSCA 6 times. So that's something I'm pretty proud of. And I have a fun time doing that at multiple different conferences and clinics. So that's really enjoyable and fun to do.
so what was that? What was that company in Colorado you said had a hard time? Because I vaguely remember them. Was
Yeah, so it was with Centura Health, which is a Catholic hospital system, and they teamed up and built a $71 million facility called the Hibble Center, and they
yeah.
teamed up with UCCS, University of Colorado at Colorado Springs. So under all one roof, it was a great idea. Just things didn't work out for the hospital system specifically, but it had research, academia, students. I was the internship coordinator there, so I would pull students from all around the country or in-house from UCCS. And they also had orthopedic doctors in there, physical therapists, athletic trainers, massage, you name it. It was everything for learning and practicing anything to do with sports medicine.
So what I know about that, because my daughter's up there. She's not in Colorado Springs. She's actually in Littleton, Colorado.
Hmm.
But is that if they could have hung on one more year, they probably would have made it.
Maybe so.
Because I always felt like they were just a little bit off timing wise. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And right before everything kind of exploded in the strength and conditioning world, especially around, and you think it would have already been there in Colorado Springs, the home of the NSCA, but especially around strength and conditioning, it just is like they were just a little off. But anyway, so man, you've had a whole bunch of stuff go in, and I'm gonna call it a short career because I've been around like 130 years. But but it's a pretty it's quite a bit. Tell me why do you think it's especially this early in your career that you've had so many experiences? Why do you think that's important?
Well, first of all, I to the audience that If you see Ewell in person, you would never think that he's been in the game for that long. He's
Oh
looking
yeah,
youthful, y'all.
old school OG. Yeah.
I don't know what moisturizer he puts on his face, but I need to get on that regimen.
Get it back. Look, Chris, whatever Chris uses, oh, he's back. So we completely took him out of the picture.
Yeah, he forgot to put his on, so he had to go smear it on real quick this month. So, just remind me the question one more time.
So all the experiences you've had in seemingly such a short period of time, why do you think they've helped you, and why do you think it's important younger those people just coming in to the field or the profession get many or a lot of experiences?
Yes, I think it's a multi-factor situation here where when you get these multitude of experiences, you continue to learn. I mean, this feel like I haven't even probably scraped the surface of what there actually is out there because this field has so much art and science behind it. How
Yeah.
you treat people with psychology, different cueing methods, how to treat this personality type versus that personality type, and then the science that goes behind it. And we're still figuring out a lot of things still to this day in terms of physiology and how to train the body. But the number one thing with all of these experiences is your goal as a coach is to create the proper response out of your athletes or clients. So when you learn and continue to immerse yourself in the art behind it and the science, that's how you're going to be able to get the proper response through training and coaching everyone. So it is super important for you to continue to learn. You know, a lot of times we see these younger kids that they think they know it all and they don't care. They don't care to learn more. That is the wrong thing. And then another thing is when you're surrounded by so many different people with so many different experiences, surely someone along the way, they're going to have that high standard of excellence that you have to rise to as a young coach, especially if they're your mentor or they're your director or coordinator or whoever it may be. And so it is so important to continue to rise to the high standard and hold yourself to excellence. And from past experience, I've worked with many people that I just couldn't understand why they would train athletes the way they did and just
Right.
ignore the facts and the science. And then one day my coordinator sat down with me and said, Kelly, not everyone is as passionate and determined as you to figure this out and to figure out the best methods. And you're just going to have to kind of sit with that,
Yep.
you know? So that's the thing is you become a better version of yourself as a coach when you have all these different experiences. You're exposed to so many different things. And one last thing I'll say about this is it's great to have a range, especially when you're young in this field. Now, as you get older, you can start to get more specialized in something, but it's better to have more breadth rather than depth to
Right.
start your career off.
Well, I'm going to say that that's a great. Let me say that a different way. Good answer. But anyway, the when we're talking about this, what that leads me to is your philosophy in training. Do you have one? Everybody I ask this question, um, they seem to have multiple philosophies until, like you said, you get a little bit older and you realize all those philosophies you're talking about are really one philosophy, and how
Mhm.
you think about training, how you do training. So, what's yours?
Of course. And then it's like I could have a different philosophy with different groups, different age ranges, different sports. So, yes, that's a really good question. And what you have to do is you have to become what I call the master of the gray area. That When training people, there's no black and white answers typically. That's why gaining all the different experiences and knowledge and wisdom is so important, because humans are not absolute beings. That there's some complex. So you have to be able to gain all this experience, wisdom, knowledge, and a good intuition to choose what to do in this weird gray complex area that humans are. So that's the first thing. Another thing that I believe is that for younger athletes, speed. You have to train speed. If you're 18 years or younger, that is a must, because the window of opportunity to gain much more speed after 18 years old really starts to close down, and you can't gain much more after 18. So it is crucial to do that. Now, in terms of strength and resistance training, maximum strength, you can gain about double from what you have at 18 years old. So we've got plenty of time to continue to develop that. So one of my huge training philosophies is speed and power training for youth athletes, and that the strength training methods is what's going to provide the horsepower for the natural athletic movements, the locomotive patterns, but we need to train that skill set. So that is a huge philosophy that I have with training.
Do I hear your experience with the Michael Johnson facility kind of popping out right there?
Oh, yes, of
I,
course.
I remember a long time ago, and he probably doesn't remember it, but having a conversation with Michael and talking about speed,
Oh, yeah.
and it was about being strong and being technically proficient with how you move. So if you start, so I kind of hear his influence, or the influence from working in that arena in part of your philosophy there. So you're instructing at the collegiate level, but you're coaching at the high school level, and those are both institutions. But you also have, some private practitioner stuff going on. What's the three areas? How you approach each?
Of course. So with instructing, our adults, our future coaches or health practitioners at CSU Pueblo, when it comes to them, I really want to get them interested in the physiology behind things, how things work, the why behind things. When people understand the why, it helps with critical thinking skills across the board, and understanding the mechanisms, and even maybe why is our bodies like this? Why do we sleep when the sun is down? Well, we can't see anything. We don't have work to do when we can't see anything. Little things like that, getting them to think through the why is super key to learning and planting the seed of curiosity in people. And then when you can backtrack and figure out the why, or if you're determined to figure out the why with any new situation that you're presented with, you're going to become more of a master. You're going to continue to build thought processes that's probably going to lead to better decision making. So that's my approach with teaching students, is telling them the why. Then when it comes to athletes, I kind of piggyback off that a little bit, but try to form it into a way that they can resonate with their sport. Okay, so giving more sport specific examples and things that they can relate and connect the dots to, that's not so in-depth sciencey, of course.
Right.
So that's a big approach with training people. Now, your folks that are my private clients that I train out of a small private gym, for those people, I have an older gentleman who is a recreational runner. So for him, I'm trying to kind of always sell myself to those folks,
Right.
giving them tips and tricks and being like, ooh, this girl's got the secret sauce. But really, I'm just passionate about all these things, and really trying to work with them to help mitigate any potential aches, pains, tweaks, and to balance them out better. Because as you know, we are all sitting a lot more than what we used to, and that causes issues. I also
Yes,
have an
yes,
autistic high schooler who just signed to play lacrosse at a college, so that's a pretty cool success story. For her, it's almost a rehabilitative session every single time. She had some developmental issues growing up, and so there's a lot of things that I do to try to help get her to connect her mental to her physical the best I can. So those are some of the just some examples of approaches with students, with teams or groups in a high school setting, and then some private athletes, really supporting them and encouraging them and trying to get that connection going with the mind and the body with some of those private clients.
got that look on your face, Chris.
Mm-mm.
What do you mean? This
No.
this this is what we do. I talk for about 15 minutes, and I look at Chris like this to make sure he's still there. Sometimes it doesn't seem like he's there, but no, I'm just kidding. I give him grief all the time.
He
I
looks.
get I give him grief all the time. So, but I'm making up for all the times I didn't talk when I was a young guy. So because I didn't. But back to the show, folks. Uh, Kelly, so let's talk a little bit about the mindset that it takes to deal with disappointments in this field because we all have them. Specifically in this field because this field is different. Let me give you an example. You can we've all met a mentor that we thought was from afar we thought were great, and then we get up close and you're like uh-uh. But I'm talking about remembering and going through those times that I know you already have, where you thought you were on track and you thought you had the answer to the question for this period in your life, and then you realize, man, I messed that up. How do you get restarted in this field?
You got to go back to your purpose. And every human was created to have a purpose and a plan for their life. And then, in fact, I recently watched this documentary called Live to 100. And they go around the world looking at blue zones, which is zones where centurions are, people
Right.
that live to 100 or more. What are they doing? How can I live a long, healthy life? One of the key trends from places over in Asia to Europe to the US, a key trend is that they have a purpose, that they have a motivation in life from that purpose.
Yeah.
So that's the first step. Is I always go back to my purpose, which I believe I was designed to help others, and I can do that through training and educating people. So anytime I have a disappointment, I look towards that purpose to give me motivation and hope to push on. And if there's ever a career change, or if I'm applying for possibly a new position, I got to make sure it's in line with that purpose. If it doesn't line up with that purpose, then I don't need to get involved in that stuff. And it could even be down to, is there a volunteer opportunity within the community that aligns with that situation? So that's the first thing. And I've got to remember that it's not all about me. And that is so key, even with training. And as a young coach, I would get so frustrated with my general population clients that were so out of shape and just had terrible lifestyle choices. And then I'd get so frustrated with the kids that I would train because they're kids. And my mentor, speaking of mentors, Lance Walker, who is the vice president of Michael Johnson Performance.
Yep.
Michael Johnson was the business guy, founder with the vision of Michael Johnson Performance. Lance Walker was kind of the mad scientist that developed the system and methods for Michael Johnson Performance. He really instilled in me that, hey, it's not about you when it comes to training. It's about them. That's why they are here. And it's about serving the client. So when I got frustrated, I looked in the mirror. Is it because I'm not coaching well that I'm getting a poor response from these athletes? It's not their fault. I'm supposed to be the one that's getting a proper response out of them. So going back to the purpose and the role of being a coach. So when there is disappointments, go back to the purpose. Always try to be virtuous and live a righteous life. There's many times that I've had superiors or leadership above me that have acted incorrectly or have, been neglectful. And I have to pick my battles and stay focused on what I can control with my athletes. And it's not all about me with this.
Well, that's great, and that's a great response to that question. And sometimes I ask questions that are open ended, and that's what I'm looking for. But specifically in this field, we get a lot of questions about the athlete, about the program that we design, about whatever we're doing. That they're open ended, they're just kind of flapping around out there, and there's no real answer. So you have to develop an answer and then live that answer, and believe in what you're doing. So let's get into technically your technical training ideas a little bit. What would you know? What would you be known for in speed?
Ooh, all of it, really.
Oh man! Oh,
I
we
mean,
got
that's how let's say we had a 4-day split, which not a lot of athletes can train 4 days a week, especially in a private sector, but
right.
there's many that could. If we had a 4-day split, well, I would hit all areas of speed, which the main buckets of speed, there's two main categories in my mind. And this is all things that I really picked up from Michael Johnson Performance, Lance Walker. When you are able to systematize and categorize things, it makes putting training together so much more easy.
Yep.
So here's the categories: linear speed and multi-directional speed. Within the linear speed bucket, we're going to train maximum velocity, your top speed. We're going to train acceleration, the start of your sprint, which they have similar things, but also quite different things in terms of the angles,
Right.
in terms of the ground contact time, force
Production of
production.
force. Yep. The whole
Right. It's a whole spectrum on the force velocity curve within
Right.
just those two abilities. So if an athlete hits those two things in a week, well, they're going to increase their athleticism for sure, their speed, which is a component of athleticism.
How
Then,
long does it take?
how long does it take?
Yeah, a lot of athletes will ask the question, how long is it going to take for me to get faster?
I mean, you'll definitely get fast after 12 weeks, but probably the bare minimum would be 8.
Say it again, Kelly. Say it again, please.
You're definitely going to get faster in 12 weeks, but the bare minimum is going to be 8. And within those 8 weeks, it's probably going to be a lot of skill enhancement, not necessarily rate of force production.
A lot of folks will come to us as coaches with a 2 week objective. I got to get faster. I have a workout in 2 weeks. What do you want me to do, man? Well, I was going to say something that's not appropriate, but I can't do that. You know what I mean?
No.
It's short of doing something very illegal or very unprofessional. There's nothing I can do to help you in 2 weeks as far as gaining speed.
Yeah.
So
Unless
on
you
the
suddenly drop 20 pounds, you're not going to get faster in 2 weeks.
and if you do that, you're probably going to be too weak to do it more than once.
Yeah, it's going to zap you.
Yeah. So the other side, the nonlinear, or what I call linear speed and then movement. That's how I separate them. But go ahead.
Of course. So the multi-directional skills, there's going to be also two components of that one. We're going to have the hard cuts, which I call change of direction speed. So
Okay.
absolutely, I'm going to the right and then I'm having to change directions and shuffle to the left or cross over and come to the left. A classic test that would show change of direction speed would be your 5-10-5 pro agility test.
Right.
making hard cuts, 180-degree turns, very technical, hard angles, lots of force, lots of eccentric components and concentric components. That's going to be your change of direction. Then what we have is what Michael Johnson Performance called angular speed. So this is going to be more upright changing directions. It's going to be curving around something.
Yeah.
Weaving,
Okay.
snaking.
I got you.
Maybe something that looks like running a route in football,
Right.
or
Right.
stuff in basketball and soccer.
Right.
So that can be either curve linear sprints, or here's another thing that I really want to try to talk more about in the future, possibly in presentations, but it's what they called grafting. So that is blending different locomotive patterns together. You could imagine somebody that is shuffling and then maybe turning into a turn and run, or a back pedal to a shuffle to a turn and run. We're never necessarily going from the left and changing directions and going to the right, but we're kind of blending these different non-linear patterns together that we oftentimes see in baseball, basketball, soccer, a whole multitude of different sports.
I started doing that in 2001. I didn't have the name blending.
Yeah.
But
the key with that one is maintaining your speed. You don't want to slow down while blending and grabbing those things together.
Outstanding.
However, with change of direction, you're going to have to slow down to make that cut and change directions. However, you really want to think about it as changing the force vectors, that you're just reversing the propellers in the way you want to go. That's going to be those hard cuts, the 5-10-5 example, okay? But with those angular, the curve-like running, or the blending the locomotion patterns together, we want to try to maintain speed as we go through that. So that's going to be kind of the multi-directional, or what you refer to as movement qualities. So those are the two buckets of speed, and then the two categories within the buckets.
Outstanding. Yeah, I'm glad. Well, I'm saying this. When you get that in your presentation as a regular thing, let me know. I'll come sit in the back.
I'll let you know.
Yes, seriously, I will. If I'm in Colorado and you're teaching, I'll come sit in the back, because I am happy to hear someone talk about those three things, but specifically how you approach change of direction and how you approach what do you call it? Blending.
Yep. The blending of the locomotive patterns, grafting, just like if you get a skin graft, they'll take it off your calf and put it where you got the burn or whatever it may be.
That's exceptional.
Blending it together.
That's exceptional. I steal a lot of technical stuff and data analysis. We're going to get to data here in a minute. Data analysis stuff from the man up there in the corner, Chris. And I am even at this point in my career, I'm not ashamed to say that I will take what you bring up, and if it makes sense, I will use it. I won't call it mine. I will say I got it from somewhere. Usually I try to remember where, but I will use it till I can't use it anymore. I'm not ashamed in that area. I know a lot of guys who get, and a lot of guys and women get frustrated when they get older, because they don't want to come along with the times, and they don't want to say they were actually taught something by someone who's only been in the field for 8, 10, 12 years. Why not? I mean, you can't be that curmudgeon and sit in the corner and not do anything. But let's talk about data, Kelly. Do you we all use data in our training. We just do that. What's your approach to data? Let's just say it that way.
So first, why do we need data? We need to look at the elements of athleticism when we're dealing with athletes specifically. So when it comes to collecting that data, we need to collect each little element of athleticism that an athlete can represent in any way that we can. Now, There's some buckets of athleticism that's a little bit higher priority for me, like speed and strength metrics and power metrics, like jumping metrics.
Okay.
So if there's limited time, space, resources, well, we're going to prioritize those three main things: strength, power, and speed. But if you've got a long time to test, if you've got all the resources, well, then we also want to add to that some things like something that's maybe reactive or skill based. Some easy examples could be like, how fast can you go through the ladder 2 feet in every hole, like a run? Little things like that. Can they gain skill and reactive abilities to get on and off the ground quicker over time with this? Okay, that's just one example that pops up in my mind. Some other things that we could test is balance. There's a multitude of different balance tests, and it can be static or dynamic, whatever you want to pick. So that could be for time, it could be for quality, subjective analysis. So that could be another one that you can look at. Mobility, stability components. A classic one is FMS. There's a lot of people that are against FMS, but you can definitely get a good overview of how the athlete moves from that. I mean, it's a tool.
Yeah, it was. That's why it was designed, when everyone was on board with it, and then they completely swung the other way. I couldn't understand.
Yeah, it's not the end all be all. It's a tool in your toolbox.
Exactly.
Yep, and that you could see measurable improvement on. So that's some things here. Now, something to mention going back to the strength. Many times, if you're first starting with athletes, it can be sketchy to max them out. You've never worked with them. They might have never even learned how to do a barbell back squat. So some ways that you can still represent strength is through strength speed or speed strength, whichever way you want to look at it. Mm-hmm. So that goes into power testing. The equation for power has strength in it. So you can look at their vertical jump or their broad jump, or let's say how far can they throw a medicine ball. All of those, if those improve, well, then that could be a measurement of increased rate of force development, which is strength. So, you don't always have to max athletes out and gather hard numbers in pounds with these athletes. So then when it comes to my data collection, for example, at Liberty High School, well, I need to get a staff going because I've got 40 to 60 football athletes to test. So I'm going to need to find volunteers, interns. I'm going to need to recruit coaches. We're going to need to have stations after a proper warm-up. Then they break into stations and go through an array of testing battery, looking at speed, linear, looking at speed, multi-directional, looking at power. Maybe we can look at the vertical jumping aspect. We can look at the broad jump aspect, so we get a horizontal measurement as well. It's going to be various different stations, and everybody's writing down on a piece of paper. And then additionally, when it comes to strength testing, now for football athletes, a lot of them have experience in the weight room. So I did max out some of the non-freshman athletes. And then from there, I usually this is how I do it. So instead of building up to a 1 rep max, basically it's like, hey guys, what have you been able to do in the past? What is the heaviest weight for how many reps? Determine a 1 RM, theoretically. I have them build up, but do as many reps as possible at their theoretical 1 RM. Because sometimes that can be inaccurate. So it's like, if they get 1, well, then it's that. If they get 5, well, then I can estimate a 1 RM from there. Then if we retest, same order of operations. Their old theoretical 1 rep max, they put that on the bar and they do as many reps as possible. Also, what this does is in a group setting, say one person, they hit their 1 RM, but another guy, he hits it easy. Now what has to happen? Add on weight. See if he can hit that. He hits it. Adds on weight. Hits that. And it goes on and on and on, and everyone else is finished except for these couple athletes that have gained a lot of strength. Well, if you do as many reps as possible with their old 1 rep max, everyone finishes at the same time. because it's the same build-up progression, 60%, 70, 80, 90, 95. Put on the 100, see if you can get more than one rep with it. So everybody finishes at the same time. It saves time, and sometimes it's not they're not squatting, or let's say squat. They're 1 RM. It's more of a, I'm getting a 3 RM, 5 RM, which sometimes can be a little bit less risky. With some people might think it is. So anyways, that's just a little bit on collecting data for me. But in the past at private sector facilities, it was very streamlined. We had a testing operator who had a non-biased opinion. There was set testing batteries that all groups would go through, except here's one little tip. Many people don't know about this. When it came to functional screening, like a FMS or anything like that, athletes that haven't hit their peak height velocity, it's not valid. So what would happen is any athlete that was a middle schooler or high schooler, they would go through that testing battery. Then the group of 9 to 11-year-olds, the younger kids, they would join in 30 minutes later. Everyone does the warm-up together and then go through all of the other athletic component measurements, speed, power, reactivity, and so forth. So anywho, that's just a little bit about data and testing.
Okay, and how do things from your perspective? How do those areas like sleep, nutrition, psychology, and all those things affect data?
Oh, huge, especially I would say sleep and nutrition really can do it for somebody. The mental status, I'll be honest with y'all, I'm trying to work on that part. I've always been a super determined gal, and mentally I've never had.
So you can't understand why someone would have trouble getting ready to X or whatever it was.
No, but I need to get better at having sympathy and understanding and relating to folks, because that is a real thing out there. But in terms of nutrition and sleep, those are some hard controllables. It's hard to control your brain, but it's not hard to get your butt in the bed at a certain time. Right. It's not hard to, instead of picking up the box of processed foods, you go and pick the fruits and vegetables and lean meats. That is a simple grab and go. That's easy. The brain is a little different.
It's hard for those youngsters to pass up that box of Fruity Pebbles.
Oh yeah, for sure. So in terms of sleep,
what are you doing, Chris?
Chris is like, what? Fruity Pebbles? That's what I had this morning.
That's what he does.
He thought he was doing good because he used the skim milk in it. He thought he was doing good.
There you go.
Kodiak Power Pancakes.
Kodiak Power Pancakes.
Nice. Very good. So here's a little side story. One time I had this, I saw this lady in the airport. It was like 6 a.m. and she was an older lady and she was overweight, did not look healthy or well. And she was eating an ice cream cone at 6 a.m. in the airport. And it just blew my mind. It blew my mind. Like, this is why we're getting diabetes,
That's a real gut problem for me.
Yeah. So I took a photo. I put something over her face so she was unidentifiable, didn't say my location, nothing, and posted as a, kind of a reality check, everybody. Why would this be a good choice? I had so many people message me and be like, what's the difference between ice cream and pancakes? Ice cream and this. And well, folks, if you actually compare a pancake to ice cream, it's got way less fat. It actually has way less sugar. And y'all would know this if y'all made your pancakes from scratch, because most pancake recipes require like a tablespoon at most of sugar. And yes, there's flour in that, but that's okay. Anywho, it was just this huge thing of people had no clue.
You got blown up, in other words.
I got blown up, and everybody was upset that I was putting this woman on blast, and then they didn't have anything to back it up other than they thought ice cream was the same as a pancake. Ice cream was the same as a piece of toast, and it's not the same.
so many people out there, and unfortunately, it's in our athletic population as well.
Yeah.
Just do not understand,
Nope.
and I've been at this a long time, and it's almost the same argument all the time. I'm like, I can show you, it's raining outside, and you'll agree with me, and I can show you that it's dry in here, and you'll agree with me. I can take you outside in the rain and tell you it's wet and you'll say yes. But I can take you outside in the sunshine, spit in your face and tell you it's raining and you'll believe me. Well, I got wet. Well, it's spit, man. It's not rain.
It's not the same substance.
It's not the same thing. Anyway, we have two more questions for you, Kelly, and then
Okay, I'll try to zip through them. We were talking about nutrition and sleep.
yeah,
Well,
as promised.
well, nutrition, of course, this is what usually happens. Athletes show up with nothing to eat. They feel like crap. That's not going to allow them to perform,
Right.
because they're lazy. They want their mommy or daddy to provide it for them. They won't take responsibility for their own nutrition. And that is where we got to have a hard stop. You got to take responsibility of your own nutrition. You can't expect other people to make choices for you. You're the only one that knows what you need to do that day, when you need to do it. And then I even have some athletes, they think they're on the right track. One time I had the soccer gal, and she was sent to me, and she said, "Hey, I come from soccer practice directly to the weight room to hit the lifting workout. And I thought I'm eating something very nutritious. I'm eating a nut bar full of fat. Yes, it might be a great choice, healthy, less processed, got some whole foods in there, but the time it takes for those nuts that are full
Yeah.
of fat and protein to digest it's not gonna
Yeah.
happen in the 15-minute walk you have from the practice field to the weight room. So
Yeah.
she thought she was on the right track, which it was a good choice, but the timing was bad. So
Right.
hey, instead reach for something that's more carbohydrate heavy, like a Cliff Bar. Oh my gosh, I had no clue. Things like that. And then, so that's going to affect her performance in the weight room.
Right.
She felt too heavy. It was, I have stomach issues. I'm
Right.
getting bubble guts, from this. So then when it comes to sleep, that is a huge thing. I think about health as a pyramid. Sleep is the base, nutrition is the middle, and physical activity is the tip. And if you turn that upside down, and sleep is now this little small point, nutrition's the middle, and your physical activity is this heavy top heavy thing, you're going to topple down pretty soon. So sleep is the foundation for all health. It is it should be the priority over nutrition, over physical activity. And what happens that a lot of coaches don't realize, and a lot of parents and athletes don't realize, they're all about this hard training session in the early morning hours because that makes me tough and that disciplines me. Hold on a second. For athletes, I'd say college and below, their sleep cycles are shifted forward some. I mean, we see it. We see the adolescents, they want to stay up late, they want to sleep in. The parents think they're lazy. Oh, they just want to stay in the bed all day. No, that is actually a natural circadian rhythm that's being shown in these individuals. So, what happens is if you have an early morning practice, say we've got a young athlete that maybe they're in high school, maybe they're just starting off in college, and they can't go to sleep because their natural rhythms don't allow them to go to sleep till 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning, and then practice is at 5:30 a.m. You're cutting off the last few hours of sleep for that individual. And what happens in those last few hours of sleep is motor skill acquisition and memory consolidation. So if you want to have sport practice to get them better at their sport through motor skills, well, they're not getting that because you're cutting their sleep off.
Right.
So that is a huge thing that we need to tell people in the school systems, people that are coaches, that we need later start times. We do not need this before the sunrise situation. That's off. That's not how those types of athletes function. So anywho, sleep is a huge thing. We've got to educate these folks that they need to get more than 8 hours of sleep Many kids and athletes are getting 6 or 7. They think it's fine. That's not okay. It needs to be 9 hours for active individuals so the nervous system can be refreshed and any motor skill that they have learned can be consolidated in their brain. So that is my huge thing, and we got to educate people. That's the only way that there's going to be change.
Sleep. Here's my two things. You don't compete at 5:30 in the morning in any sport that I know of.
You're wrong.
What sport is it?
Marathon running.
Hockey.
What?
Hockey?
Yeah.
5:30 in the morning
6 a.m.
games?
You're getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning for 6 a.m. games. It happens.
Wow,
They need to cut that out.
that's terrible.
Lacrosse tournaments. You start as soon as the sun's up.
That's silly.
Yeah.
It happens all the time.
That's silly. We're supposed to be asleep when the sun is down. That means you'd be waking up before the sun comes up. That's not natural.
Anyway, we shouldn't be
That's what a strength
competing
coach
before
does every
5.
day. Right?
It's still
That's
not
what it is.
natural.
And then we expect others to
No, I do not.
abide by that.
I will not work before 8 a.m. I've set my boundaries. Sorry, guys. I will not work before 8 a.m.
I commend you.
And also, I train athletes into the afternoon. You know, I'm train. Used to, there was one time my last session of the day ended at 9 o'clock at night. And so you're going to expect me to have a 6 a.m. training session? No. We got to set our boundaries.
Well, we could. I promised you, Kelly, that we'd be done in 45 minutes. Well, I broke that promise.
We can do the second one.
But we can do this again if you are willing.
Of course.
But I thank you for your time today. Hate to cut you off, especially since Chris just woke up. But now just giving him grief again. This is kind of, some days I'm that guy, other days he's that guy. So, but it's just depending on who we're talking to and what's going on and the subject matter. You can't be an expert at everything, but we try to cover both sides of performance or all 4 sides of performance to some degree. But thank you for coming on. We look forward to having you back on and talking to you again. And Chris, do you have a quick question?
Do we want to ask the question?
Really fast.
So if you had to pick an athlete, any athlete, one position, who would be an athlete that could perform in every sport and be a high-end competitor?
Well, this might not be a classic athlete. So I'll give a non-classic athlete and a classic athlete. The first person that comes to my mind is the Swiss Army knife of athletes, and it's your CrossFit athletes. I know that's not what some people want to hear, but those athletes literally train to go and compete, to do everything possible, running 3 miles, doing 20 power cleans, stuff like that. So I do feel like those athletes could probably, if you put them in any scenario, they would probably do pretty good. But in terms of your classic athlete, that is a very hard one. I would probably...
Can a CrossFitter hit a ball or shoot a ball or release a lax ball? I'm sure some
maybe not with skill and precision, but I do think that they could endure and withstand a lot of the physical components of many, many sports.
Sure.
For your classic sport, I'm going to go with basketball.
Okay.
Those guys can be strong. They can jump really high. They've got a lot of precision. They can endure. They can cut. They can sprint. They have a lot of eye skills, hand and eye skills. I think basketball is a super sport. That would be my answer.
Position? Forward, guard?
That's tough. I don't think I'm going to express a position.
Just basketball player overall.
Yep. Those guys can be versatile too.
Okay.
Well, then the second one I would say is football. However, a lot of times they have some trouble with enduring and having some stamina. Sometimes.
Well, that's That's just looking at. Well, I'll just keep that to myself. But anyway, Chris, you want to take us out of here? Kelly, it's been fun. It's been enlightening, and we're going to do it again. So just wait for me to call.
Okay, will do. Thanks so much, guys, for hearing me talk. Sometimes, you get a little guilty when you're just yapping it all, but thanks for the awesome questions, and I hope y'all have a great rest of your week, and let's keep on getting better and getting other people better.